first thing I did in the prep for the Woodsville car was to strip the decals that came in the kit off. I did this by using isopropyl alcohol, or I think there's a product called Chameleon paint strip, something like that. When you do it, you just want to make sure the product that you use won't eat the plastic or warp it. Alright, so after we stripped the old decals off and the model's dry, the next step that I did was to measure out the styrene sides that we're going to glue on to make where the wood chips would be held. I used my HO scale ruler to measure from this point here to this point over here for roughly 40.5 feet or so. Then I measured from about here to about there. It's just inside, if you look at the top, just inside here, so that when you put the thing together, you don't, your end pieces are going to be on the inside of your long pieces. Okay, here's my measurements that I put on the styrene. Let's see here. Get something so I can point. So these pieces here would be for the long, I get over here, the long side, the length of the car, and these pieces here would be for the end of the car over here. Now obviously my measurements are just a rough starting point. You may have to trim them a little bit. Once you get them cut, you may have to sand them down a little bit, flatten the edges out so that they meet up. But it's a good starting point, I guess. So the next step I do is cut my pieces out and then fit them to the model to make sure everything's going to look right. I don't have any weird like gaps or anything like that. So to cut it, I line up best I can on my lines, trying to keep it straight, and then just like everyone knows pretty much by now, just score it a couple of times. And it should just snap for you. And then you just cut the rest out, same method. So again, just line it up the best you can with your lines. Trying to keep it fairly straight as possible. It also helps if you have a sharp X-Acto, I've found. It makes several passes versus a couple hard passes. The cut seems to be a little more accurate. So then I'll just take a piece, turn it here, cut the ends, so I can just show you how I snap everything off. Alright, now it should just snap for us. Let's see. See? Makes it easier. And then you just take your pieces, snap them in half. And you should have fairly clean cuts. You may have to sand them up a little bit to get some of the flashing or some of the excess off where you scored it. So I glued the sides on to the model, and I took the L-shaped strapping right here and glued it on to give it a little lip similar to what's down bottom here. I'm going to turn this here so you can see I don't know if it'll show up good on the camera, but one end is a little off from the other. This end here versus this end here is a little bow in it. So I didn't line it up exactly, but I figured it would look okay once the paint goes on, wear and tear type thing. Alright, so next I'm going to put the grab irons on using .25 music wire and a .25 bit. I'm going to hand bend them too, so I'll show you that in a second here. Okay, so what I did was I took just a regular X-Acto holder and then put the .25 bit in the end, clamped it down. It's kind of hard to see on camera. And then I just measured off close to where the existing grab irons were, and then just drilled the hole through the styrene at the approximate spacing. Then I'll bend the wire and glue them in place. So the next step would be to paint the whole thing out in a black and then apply the decals. I painted the car in engine black from Polyscale just because I have a lot of this kicking around, so it seemed the best bet to use. Okay, so this is the model painted, and I'm going to put the decals on next. Alright, so here are the two cars finished. This is the first one I did, and it doesn't have very much weathering on it yet, but I put handrails or grab irons on the side, on the front, and then on the end here I put grab irons too. Also on this model has the identifications, boss the name, the car number, and then the literature for the warning for the brakes and whatnot on the ends. Where this one, the new one, I scraped off a little bit of the decal to make it look like it had been in service longer, and obviously put some rust on it. And I didn't put the car markings on the ends like the first one. Also, the handrails on the sides aren't there on the front, they're on the ends. Those of you who are wondering what decal set I used a Highball Graphics decal set number F242 Woodsville woodchip cars. If you go to Google and type in Highball Graphics, chances are you're going to find Highball Graphics, and you'll be able to find it on their website by searching. So that pretty much wraps it up. That's how I made these cars. I hope this has inspired you to try it yourself, or to come up with your own type of car or whatnot, because that's part of this hobby, is just trying things out, learning new tasks, just having fun with it. Good luck!